In September 2024, the federal government did something the music industry was too afraid to do for 30 years. They ripped off the mask. When Homeland Security raided Sean "Diddy" Combs' mansions, they didn't just find a celebrity. They found a criminal enterprise hiding in plain sight. We all knew Diddy was creepy. We saw the awkward videos with a teenage Justin Bieber. We heard the whispers about Usher. We watched him stand next to Jay-Z preaching about black excellence while drinking $1,000 champagne. But behind the private jets and the white parties, there was a darkness that a billion-dollar fortune couldn't buy off. Today, Diddy sits in a federal cell, facing charges of sex trafficking and racketeering. The man who claimed he was sent by God to save the black race is now being compared to Jeffrey Epstein and Harvey Weinstein. But how did a kid from Harlem build an empire of abuse while the whole world watched? To understand the monster, we have to go back to the freezing night in 1972 when the light first went out. Sean Combs wasn't born into royalty. He was born into a war zone. In 1972, his father, Melvin Combs, was shot dead in a car on Central Park West. Melvin was a military vet, but in Harlem, he was a drug trafficker tied to the infamous Frank Lucas. The rumor? He was an informant. He was executed for selling out his own people. Sean's mother, Janice, kept the truth a secret for 20 years, telling him his father died in a car accident. She worked 3 jobs to move them to the suburbs, but the shadow of the Bronx followed them. Diddy often tells the story of waking up with 15 roaches on his face. That memory didn't make him humble. It made him a predator. He decided right then he would own everything at any cost. But the most disturbing part of his childhood happened at school. Diddy attended Mount St. Michael Academy, a Catholic school where just 1 year after he graduated, the principal was indicted for molesting 14-year-old boys. Diddy was an altar boy in a system known for cycles of abuse. In psychology, there's a dark correlation between being a victim and becoming a perpetrator. Diddy didn't just enter the music industry, he brought a cycle of trauma with him. By 21, Diddy was the director of talent at Uptown Records. He was a prodigy, yes, but he was also a tyrant. His assistant at the time, Pam Lewis, says he would berate and humiliate employees in front of the entire office. This wasn't just ambition, it was a pathological need for dominance. Then came the 1991 City College Stampede. 9 kids died at an event with Diddy's name on it. While families buried their children, Diddy went on TV to play the victim, claiming he was left alone with the bodies. A judge later ruled he was lying. The money meant for charity? It vanished. This was the blueprint. Use talent to gain power, use power to exploit others, and use PR to cover the bodies. It was during this time that 14-year-old Usher was sent to live with a 25-year-old Diddy. Usher later called it a wild experience he would never put his own kids through. Diddy openly bragged about a child sleeping in his bed. In any other world, this is a red flag. In the music industry, it was just Puffy being Puffy. Diddy's greatest asset was the notorious B.I.G. Biggie was the soul of Bad Boy Records, but he was also Diddy's ultimate meal ticket. Diddy took 50% of his artists' publishing. He inserted himself into every music video. He made sure he was the face, even though he couldn't write a single rhyme. When Biggie was murdered in 1997, the world mourned. Diddy capitalized. Instead of letting his staff grieve, he pushed Biggie's posthumous album to #1 and put himself on the cover of Rolling Stone. Even the violent Suge Knight was disgusted, saying, "When Tupac died, I didn't pick up a mic, I picked up the pieces. Diddy picked up the profit." Then there was Shine. In 1999, a club shooting broke out. Diddy and his 20-year-old artist Shine were both arrested. Diddy hired the best lawyers for himself and let Shine take a 10-year prison sentence for a crime witnesses say Diddy committed. Shine's life was destroyed. Diddy's career soared. He didn't see artists as humans. He saw them as disposable batteries. As the 2000s rolled on, the white parties became legendary. If you weren't there, you weren't relevant. Everyone from Donald Trump to the Kardashians attended. But these weren't just parties. According to federal prosecutors, they were staging grounds for freak-offs, elaborate, drug-fueled sexual performances that Diddy allegedly forced women to endure for days at a time. Homeland Security seized 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricants. They found ghost guns. They found evidence of a criminal enterprise that used personal assistants, security, and even household staff to facilitate sex trafficking. The most heartbreaking evidence came from Cassie Vander. Her 35-page lawsuit described a decade of being drugged, beaten, and trafficked. Diddy settled in 24 hours for an estimated $30 million. He thought money could bury the truth one last time. He was wrong. Diddy didn't act alone. You don't run a sex trafficking empire for 30 years without help. The most terrifying part of this story isn't just Diddy, it's the silence. Where's Jay-Z? Where's Oprah? Where's LeBron? The same celebrities who toasted him at his white parties have gone ghost. In Hollywood, your brand is your currency. No one wanted to risk their empire to save Diddy's victims. They worshipped the money, and Diddy had a lot of it. There are rumors he kept meticulous records and videos of everyone who participated in his lifestyle. The industry isn't silent because they're shocked. They're silent because they're terrified of what Diddy might say to get a lighter sentence. Diddy's story is a tragedy of a kid who escaped the roaches only to become the very thing that infested his life. He built a kingdom on the broken spirits of young artists and the silence of his peers. He thought he was untouchable. He thought he was love. But as he waits for trial in a Brooklyn jail, the only thing left is the truth. The light finally found him, and it is blinding. Thanks for watching the darkest chapter in music history.